That should be good. Hello everyone, Nick the DM here with some Dungeons & Dragons lore. Today we are going to be looking at what are probably the most influential monsters in Dungeons & Dragons, dragons, and more specifically, how they age. Now, it's pretty common knowledge that dragons in Dungeons & Dragons get stronger as they age, but I'm not here to tell you what is common knowledge. In this video, we'll be covering the dragon life cycle from egg to great worm, so let's get into it. Dragon age categories have changed a bit between editions. Earlier editions, 1st through 3rd, having 12 wormling/hatchling, very young, young juvenile, young adult, adult, mature adult, old, very old, ancient/venerable, worm, and finally great worm. 4th edition limited it to 5 wormling, young, adult, elder, and ancient, and 5th edition having 4 wormling, young, adult, and ancient. Because the Great Worm from Fizban's Treasury of Dragons isn't technically an age category, but an optional ascension kind of thing. So like an upgrade rather than an age. This isn't including the egg and twilight of the dragons, but I will be including the egg stage in today's video. However, because of how much information is in the death and twilight of the dragons, that will be in another video. Starting right away, the dragon life cycle begins as an egg. Dragons are capable of mating and laying eggs as of the young adult stage. Females remaining fertile throughout the very old age category, and males being able to fertilize eggs through the worm stage. 4th edition states that female metallic and chromatic dragons can decide if mating produces eggs, metallic females having complete control over fertility, and chromatic females being able to lessen the chance but not completely prevent the chances of fertilizing an egg. 3.5e says dragons typically lay eggs in clutches of 2 to 5. The size of the eggs and the incubation periods varies based on the type of dragon. Advanced D&D also gives its own numbers on clutches of eggs and incubation time as well, so I'll put those on the screen alongside with the 3.5 clutch sizes. The first quarter of incubation time, the egg stays inside the mother. After that period, the egg can spend the next 3/4 of the incubation period in the very specific environmental conditions until they hatch. However, it is said that metallic dragon mothers often keep the eggs inside of them for much longer, 18 to 24 months, depending on the specific variety of dragons. These specific details for the egg size, incubation periods, and conditions come from the 3.5 and 4th edition Draconomicons. Both editions do, however, have their differences between the specifics and timeline, 3.5 saying the longest incubation period for an egg is 720 days for gold dragons, and 4th edition saying that in general, incubation can take between 2 to 5 years. Both are quite detailed, as well as detailing the check the hatchling must make in order to properly hatch, and any possible circumstances that would change the difficulty of the check. Right after hatching, the dragon enters its first official stage of life, which is called either hatchling or wormling, depending on the edition. I will be calling them both just to switch things up. Dragons 0 to 5 years old fall into this category. These newly hatched dragons come into the world ready to face whatever life throws at them. Despite being sodden and awkward at this stage, hatchlings are equipped with some innate knowledge of the world, a unique trait of dragons that allows the young to possess some knowledge from their parents, even if on their own. These skills, instincts, and information don't come in the form of memories, but rather dormant knowledge the hatchling doesn't recall until needed. When first born, dragons have 3 things in mind: food, a lair, and discovering its own abilities, specifically in that order. The first meal of a wormling is often its shell, providing it with essential nutrients and an option other than eating its siblings. Wormlings whose parents are present at hatching, typically metallics, will often be presented with prey by their parents, specific to the dragon's preferences and region. This is treated not just as a first meal, but also a first hunting lesson. After eating, a wormling will find shelter in the form of a secure lair, lone hatchlings picking the nearest safe spot, and those with a parent finding a portion of their parent's lair to call their own. Hatchlings are also quite physically capable at an early age, and depending on the edition, they can either fly within an hour of hatching or between 2 to 5 days after emerging. Now, regardless of the type of dragon or the presence or absence of parents, a wormling will normally seek out a mentor to help it better understand its powers. This can be a parent or another strong dragon nearby. Even chromatics will accept young to train, understanding that to teach the young is to further the species. Regardless of relation, a hatchling must treat its mentor with the utmost respect, even offering food, treasures, or other offerings to the older dragon. These mentorings can last up to a number of decades for metallic dragons, and some only a couple months for chromatics. The younger dragon will normally visit its mentor weekly or monthly. And finally, if the older dragon begins to see the younger dragon as a rival, the mentorship ends immediately, and in the case of chromatic dragons, often violently for the younger or weaker of the two. By its 6th year of life, a dragon reaches its next age category, this being called its very young stage, lasting from age 6 to age 15. By age 6, a very young dragon will normally have grown to double its size from when it was born, as well as becoming physically stronger and more robust. A very young dragon will sometimes relocate to a new lair at this point, either because its larger size has caused it to leave its family nest, or more commonly because after hunting in the area for 5 years, its location may have been discovered. Other than the new size, strength, and location, a very young dragon is still very much similar to a wormling or hatchling. From ages 16 to 25, a dragon is considered young, this being the next age category for dragons. Starting at age 16, young dragons begin their next growth spurt, which continues until they reach their adult size, though they maintain their overly large head and feet that they've had since hatching. 4th edition mentions that at the start of this age category, dragons are normally the size of a horse, though in earlier editions this is different as dragons had different sizes on average based on the variety and species of dragon. Young dragons' intellects become sharper as they gain life experience and master their innate abilities. At this stage, some dragons have already left their family nest. However, some young dragons, mostly metallic, may still be taking measured steps of leaving home. 4th edition states that almost every dragon leaves its home by this stage, but 3.5e mentions that a few may stay for a number of years or decades longer. Many young dragons, however, leave home as this is when a dragon begins to feel the urge to collect treasure and establish a territory of its own. Many young dragons who leave the nest now will travel quite far away from their families or mentors to avoid any territorial conflicts. The relationship between a young dragon and their parent depends on the unique individuals, some still sharing a fondness, maintaining contact, and providing assistance while ensuring far separated territories, some the extreme opposite, where a chromatic parent and offspring will consider each other rivals after separating and becoming dangerous competitors who know much about one another. Most chromatic and metallic dragons, however, maintain a mild fondness with relatives, not showing disdain, but neither is likely to jump into danger to save the other. It is also said that once a young metallic dragon leaves its parent's nest, it cannot return without invitation, which is a rare and unlikely occurrence. After young comes the juvenile age category. Dragons 26 to 50 years old fall into this grouping. Juvenile dragons are nowhere near the strength of an adult, however their body has adjusted so its proportions are the same as an adult, filling out so it no longer has the overly large head and feet as it did when it was younger. At this age, most species begin exhibiting the start of their magical powers. From age 51 to 100, a dragon is considered a young adult. It is ready to mate, and most dragons lose no time in doing so. By this age, a dragon's scales have developed into armor formidable enough to turn aside all but magic weaponry or the teeth and claws of other dragons, though the resistances and damage reductions have changed between editions. A young adult dragon also masters its first spells and shows evidence of a formidable intellect. According to 3.5e, a young adult dragon severs its ties with its nestmates, mentors, and parents if it has not done so already, and establishes its own lair and territory. Of course, this information is different from what I mentioned in the young category, that information having come mostly from 4e. So it is safe to assume their relationships only last until a dragon becomes a young adult. Of course, rarely a dragon may maintain a connection to its parent or mentor. The next stage in a dragon's life is called the adult stage. From age 101 to 200, a dragon is considered an adult. An adult dragon's growth begins to slow as its body grows even stronger, healthier, and tougher. An adult dragon will continue to grow its mental abilities, learning new skills and magic, and hone what abilities it already possesses. A dragon who seeks to integrate themselves into the affairs of other races, whether that be by taking a humanoid form or by manipulating or organizing relations from afar, will do so now. A metallic dragon often doing so by adopting a humanoid disguise. Often an adult dragon will begin or plot long-term schemes at this time as well, not as subtly as an older dragon, most developing to bribery and threats. Additionally, this age is when a dragon is most likely to take a mate, have offspring, and share its lair. Whenever an adult dragon is not manipulating humanoids or looking for a mate, it is expanding its territory and creating a permanent lair for itself. This expanding of territories may cause dragons to encounter rivals and initiate fights for territory. Once a dragon passes its second century in life, it is considered a mature adult, from 201 to 400 years old. As a mature adult, a dragon's physical and mental prowess continues to grow. However, they show very little physical changes throughout this stage in their life. At this point in a dragon's life, it is one of the strongest creatures, and the dragon knows this. Unlike younger dragons, a mature adult will not seek out stronger opponents to prove itself. It is sure of its power and displays the utmost confidence, often launching schemes that take years to accomplish, knowing that it will be around to see them through. Dragons of this age gain an amount of notoriety. Their names have become known to either rivals or kingdoms. Because of this, a mature adult spends much of its time surveying its borders and checking and improving the defenses of its lair. If the dragon finds that its lair is insufficient or too lacking to be properly upgraded, it may relocate entirely. The dragon will be very careful in choosing this new lair, often taking time to secure some treasures while relocating. Next up in the dragon life cycle is the old category, also called Elder in 4th edition. Dragons from 401 to 600 years old. When most dragons reach this age, their physical growth stops. However, they continue to grow more resilient, and their mental abilities and magical powers continue to improve through the remaining centuries. Old dragons usually begin showing signs of aging, cracked and chipped scales, scales that begin to pale or lose their luster, and the irises in their eyes begin to fade, so that their eyes begin to resemble featureless orbs. A dragon of this age has most likely found or created its permanent lair and amassed quite a sizable horde, often attracting numerous adventurers and younger dragons trying to test their strength. Most elder dragons have gathered some minions or amassed an army, often even controlling kings, advisors, or entire guilds. Likewise, some elder or old dragons find satisfaction in passing on their wisdom and life lessons to younger dragons, students, and of their own familial lines, or sometimes humanoids of exceptional worth and charisma. From age 601 to 800, a dragon enters the very old age category. Dragons of this age become even more resistant to physical punishment. At this point, a very old dragon has mastered many magical abilities and potent spells. Female dragons try to raise at least 2 more clutches of eggs in this stage of life, as this is the last stage before their reproductive period runs out. Now at ages 801 to 1000, we reach the Ancient Age category, also called Venerable in 1st and 2nd edition. Most dragons at this age have little to fear from any younger dragons that have not reached adulthood, and have the intellect to match the brightest of humanoids. Many have vast stores of wisdom and knowledge to draw upon in times of need, or even just to show off how much they know. Venerable dragons are so powerful that fighting them is less about slaying the beast and more about appeasing its whims and obeying its demands. Cities will be abandoned, tribes will wage war to appease their draconic master, and treasuries emptied in tribute or fear. An ancient dragon's hoard contains more treasure than all but the greatest kingdoms. And whether in fame or infamy, the dragon's name, or one of its names, is known far and wide to rival dragons or in the legends of humans. Some ancient dragons hibernated for so long a generation or two of shorter-lived races may pass by without knowing a dragon lives merely miles away. And many dragons at this age take up numerous hobbies to entertain themselves, learning of the arcane, planar knowledge or travel, starting wars to provide a challenge for themselves, and the list goes on. Next up is the worm age category. Worm is sometimes used as another word for dragon, just as a synonym. However, it is also an age category for dragons age 1001 to 1200. To quote from the 3.5e Draconomicon, quote, "Surviving for more than 1,000 years is a grand accomplishment even for dragons, and this stage is a great milestone in dragon life. Even among rival dragons, a worm commands at least grudging respect. Male dragons at this stage are reaching the end of their reproductive years, but their exalted status among dragons practically guarantees them mates. Younger females often establish territories adjacent to a male worm for mating, for protection, and to make it easier for the offspring to gain the worm as a mentor." End quote. And finally, we have the eldest category of all dragons, the Great Worm. Now, the Great Worm as an age category is different from the Great Worms in Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. If you want to know about the differences between them, I have another video out on that. Right now, we're just talking about the age category. Simply put, a Great Worm is a dragon who lives past 1200 years. These dragons are at the peak of their physical, mental, and magical powers. Now, that is it for the dragon age categories. However, there are some things I haven't covered, the twilight and the death of the dragons. However, this video is getting long, so I will cover that in another video. So, that is it for today's video. If you've enjoyed, please give this video a like and maybe subscribe to help the channel grow. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!